Good morning. Good morning. It's Volunteer and Staff Appreciation Sunday. Woo! This is a day we set aside to recognize the good works done in our effort to recognize one another's humanity and to make this world a better place and to keep the UUSM community together. It sometimes feels like despite our efforts to lighten the burdens, bring salve to those in pain, the news from across the globe or just down the 405 has us gasping and constantly asking ourselves what more can be done to bring about change, to ease the pain of those suffering, and to save a life. So many lives have been upended in the recent months, weeks, and days. Yet we find strength to lift up our voices and our hearts, to meet the day to ask, how can I be of service? How can I help? Many of you come to work with a heavy heart and still find a way to share your joy and your light. Thank you. This particular Sunday reminds us, in the midst of recognizing those who have been here holding down the fort in the fight for our lives, there is still more to do. So let me ask you to stop looking at our to-do lists for one moment and accept my humble gratitude I offer you. Amongst us, there are volunteers for CASA Los Angeles as court-appointed special advocates for children in the court system. Thank you. Volunteers for animal rights. Thank you. Men and women who have marched for women's rights so that we can govern our own bodies as we see fit. Thank you. Men and women who have stood to watch outside the detention centers for immigrants unlawfully and cruelly held in limbo. Thank you. Teens who have collected funds, clothing, and books for other teens stranded in detention centers. Thank you. Our own Lunches for Bunches crew. Thank you. Children and youth volunteers. Thank you. Our board members. Thank you. Today, I thank all of you for going out into this world and giving of your time and energy to various organizations and individuals as compassionate and impassioned volunteers. Come, let us worship together.
Good morning. And peace to you. My name is the Reverend Jeremiah Kalendae, and I serve this historic congregation as its developmental minister. If this is your first time joining us for worship in our sanctuary or online, we're glad you're here, and we hope that you'll consider becoming more involved with our beloved community. Today, as JoAn shared, we are celebrating our many volunteers and staff. And we are also in a state of mourning in the wake of the violence that unfolded in Texas earlier this week. We aspire to hold the complexities of gratitude and thanksgiving for our beloved community with the deep sadness and grief of this time in which we are living. If you're in need of pastoral support, our co-chairs of our Pastoral Associates programs, Linda Van Lichten and Denise Helton, have made themselves available to offer their support today. So thank you, Linda and Denise. We open our service with the lighting of our flaming chalice, a symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. Our beautiful opening words are from the Reverend Molly Brewer. My beloved people, I cannot pretend, and so I will not tell you that everything is okay right now, that there is no reason to be angry, that you must be optimistic or at peace. I cannot pretend these things, and so I won't tell them to you. But now our chalice is lit. And so I ask in this moment that we remember the words of Rebecca Parker. There is a love. There is a love holding us. There is a love holding all that we love. By the light of our chalice, let us rest in this love.
this better? Lower? Better? Much better. Okay. Aw. Good morning. I'm JoAn Peters, your worship associate for this morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Community Church of Santa Monica. We're delighted you have come to connect with us online and in person in the sanctuary. Wherever you are today, from communities across LA Basin and around the United States and beyond, we're glad you're here. And Mark, I'm glad you're tuning in today. If you're new to our community, please know that while our building is still open and closed for larger events and services, we're still here, and there are many ways to learn about us and become involved. We offer programs to serve the needs of our congregation and to be of service to the larger world, including broad religious education, personal development for people of all ages. We also join with other social justice advocates in the community activism that contributes to the justice and harmony of our world. Unitarian Universalism is not defined by creed or dogma, but is guided by principles that affirm the worth and dignity of every person and encourages an individual search for truth and meaning. We honor the wonder and existence and believe that we are all connected to each other and to the interdependent web of life. Our beliefs are drawn from scripture and science, nature and philosophy, personal experience and ancient traditions. We are an open, affirming, and welcoming congregation, diverse in backgrounds, identities, spiritualities, and philosophies of life. We are also a dedicated peace site. We are united in our desire to create an inclusive and beloved community, to live the principles of our faith, and to serve the wider world. An important step on that journey is our acknowledgement that our church and the homes of most of our members are on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded lands of the Tongva people, who continue to live here and who have cared for these lands for thousands of years. We recognize and mourn the often deadly harm inflicted on the indigenous people of this country. We lift up their grace, resilience, and their relationship with these sacred lands. Announcements. So, the choir is having its first fundraiser post-COVID. And that will happen June 10th, 7 p.m., right here. Yes, right here.
When was that?
June 7th. June 10th. When was that? June 10th at 7 p.m.
Is it a Saturday or a Friday?
It's a Friday. So Friday, we're out and we're gonna boogie with the choir, right? Let's do this. Connected to the choir is something even more fabulous: silent auction. There are so many awesome things to talk about, and I only have a list of 3, and the fact that they're listed 1, 2, 3 does not indicate better or worse. It's just that I can't blurt it all out at once. So, number 1 is you get to bid on a hymn of your choice for either the section leader or the choir to sing for church. Or you can bid on an anthem for either the section leader or the choir to sing, and we will honor your request. Number 2, Sue Bickford's chocolate layer cake. I have to say that again. Sue Bickford's chocolate layer cake with ganache. You can bid on that. Then there's this other fabulous thing called a private salon with Ryan and Chloe. And for 30 minutes, they will give you a salon concert in your backyard, and you can invite some close friends to enjoy. Or, if it were me, I'd bid on the cake, have the cake with just me, Ryan and Chloe, It's a good day, don't you think?
It's allowed.
Yay. I'll even share it with you.
Sure.
Okay. So then the next thing is a little important. The annual meeting. That'll be June 5th at 12 p.m. What time? What day? June 5th. Yes, Sunday, June 5th. So a note to the members who will be attending, keep an eye out for the lunch survey. That's going to come out, and then you'll be able to fill that out and let us know what you want for lunch. But make sure that we get it by Friday, June 3rd. So, and look for the link on our private Facebook page, okay? And finally, I know all of you are going to stay to talk and connect and the things that we love to do after our wonderful sermon. But also, join in Lunches for Bunches and help pack some lunches for today. So, and that'll be over in the courtyard on the far end in the shade. And we look forward to seeing you all. Thanks.
Please rise in body or in spirit for our opening hymn, 298, in your great hymnal. And we're only singing verses 1, 2, and 5.
Yes, please remain standing for our covenant. Love is the doctrine of this church. Quest for truth is a sacrament, and service is its prayer. For dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve other in fellowship, and to be covenant with each other. So, like many of you, I get nervous. And even though I've been attending this church since Ellie was 5 years old and she's now 16, and I didn't bring the order of service with me, so I'm assuming that now it's this time for all ages. And it's also a time for me to remind you that if you have any food for the West Side Food Bank, please bring it up and you can put it in our basket. And I'll also remind you that years ago, it feels like years ago, but 2 years ago or 3 years ago, we used to invite the kids up to come and listen to a story. But we won't do that this time. I'll tell you a made-up story about us. This is a story of volunteering and working together to help rebuild a community. Once upon a time, this church was flourishing with a children's and youth religious education program. We enjoyed many wonderful activities like camping, horseback riding, game night, movie night, and travel volunteering to places like Louisiana and Mexico. We had a wonderful time together. Well, as time went on, our kids moved away, some went out to explore the world, and some went on to college. And then one fateful day, in March of 2019 to be exact, COVID hit, and it spread all across the land, and many places like our happy church had to close. We tried to get together on Zoom, but somehow for kids, it just wasn't quite the same. And we all eventually learned how to distance ourselves from one another and accept our fate for not coming together to have fun and worship together. But as the vaccines became available, we began to long to meet together and do fun things and have interesting activities together. So parents and RE volunteers and board members began to wonder, how could we revive the Children and Youth RE program? So they put their thinking caps on, talked amongst themselves. They talked to their children. They called their college students, and they called their children in faraway lands and said, do you remember any of the fun things that we used to do here? Could you help me make a list? Well, a list was made. We compared notes, and we considered all of the possibilities, and a great idea was devised. We would adopt a portion of the Santa Monica Beach. So we adopted the part of Santa Monica Beach by the Annenberg Beach House. And now we have a monthly beach cleaning day. We had our first beach cleaning day last Sunday. And this summer, the CYRE will have a variety of activities and events once or twice a month to welcome new and returning CYRE families. So join us in creating, as parents, kids, young and old volunteers, to rebuild our program. Thank you.
Tragedy has struck once again, and we gather in beloved community to grieve together to memorialize, and to practice our liberal religious faith. In this time for mindfulness and prayer and meditation, you're invited to center yourself in whatever way is most helpful to you. Please know that I will be reading the names of those murdered this morning, followed by our time for silent meditation and prayer. We will toll our church bell in memory of their lives. If you're not in a good place for this, you're invited, as always, to step outside and enjoy the serenity of the courtyard for these moments. I otherwise invite you to continue to center and ground yourself. Feel the earth beneath your feet, the fresh air about you, and slowly move inward, perhaps by gently closing your eyes and becoming aware of the rhythm of your breathing and the beating of your heart. In the light of our beloved community, we read aloud the names of the deceased and offer our prayers for them, for their families, and for their communities. And we commit ourselves to the bold actions required to heal and transform our hurting society. Ava Morales, age 44. Xavier Lopez, age 10. Jose Flores, age 10. Burma Garcia, age 48. Nevea Bravo, age 10. Ellie Garcia, age 9. Tess Mata, age 10. Lexi Rubio, age 10. Jacqueline Cazares, age 9. Jaila Nicole Soglero, age 10. Jace Luavanos, age 10. Miranda Mathis, age 11. Amory Jo Garza, age 10. McKenna Lee Elrod, age 10. Layla Salazar, age 10. Maita Rodriguez, age 10. Annabelle Rodriguez, age 10. Eliana Cruz Torres, age 10. Rogelio Torres, age 10. Alethea Ramirez, age 10. Lucia Garcia, age 10. Let us offer the prayers of our hearts and find the serenity of silence together for a few brief minutes. Amen. Our hearts are broken, and there is a longing in our souls for a world where all are safe and protected from the plague of gun violence. Like most of you, I've sat transfixed and in lamentation following the murder of a classroom of school children and their teachers. I was reminded of the eulogy the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. delivered in the days following his legendary I Have a Dream speech. 4 black girls had just been murdered in a church bombing in Birmingham. And he imagined what they might say to our society if they were still alive. Substitute courage for caution, he admonished, and concern yourselves not merely with those who murdered them, but concern yourself also with the system, the way of life, and the philosophy which produces murderers. I imagine the chorus of children whose lives were taken from us by gun violence might similarly counsel us to find the courage as a society to confront gun violence with the enactment of legislation to prevent this type of entirely predictable violence. I imagine, too, that they would ask us to concern ourselves not just with the individuals who enact such violence, but also the conditions of our society which help to catalyze the violence. We must not feel powerless as we confront such complex challenges as a society. We must interrupt our feelings of powerlessness to find our willpower as a people. We know there are things we can do as a society that would immediately diminish the likelihood of the next mass murder. We need an immediate ban on assault weapons. We know that mass shootings were reduced by 43% when they were banned during the 10-year period from 1994 to 2004. We know that's what's consistent among most of these mass shooting events in schools and grocery stores and movie theaters and concerts and at houses of worship is the use of an AR-15 semi-automatic rifle, an instrument of mass death with a rate of fire that is often too rapid and lethal to be stopped in time, even by armed law enforcement officers. The freedom to bear weapons of war in our society is now a grave threat to the free society they are supposed to protect. They're not protecting us. They're undermining liberty and putting us all in danger. We need to immediately restrict the sale of high-capacity ammunition magazines that allow mass murders to unfold quickly and uninterrupted. We must expand background checks, require licensing for gun owners, and keep guns out of the hands of domestic abusers and stalkers. We have to regulate gun shows and implement buyback programs to get assault weapons off of the streets. We have the power as a society to curb gun violence through empirically validated measures. Amnesty International reminds us, governments have a legal obligation to protect the right to life, to protect everyone's right to life, and accordingly, a responsibility to protect people from firearms violence. We have to remind them of their duty by demanding gun reform. Now, social policy can diminish the likelihood of another tragedy. But we cannot end violence in our society without also addressing its various manifestations and the underlying conditions that perpetuate it. We cannot end the epidemic of violence in our society without addressing violence against women, against Black, Indigenous, and people of color, against poor people, against transgender people, against queer people, against those living with disabilities, against those with mental illness, against those unhoused, against immigrants, against the undocumented, against the planet, against animals, against all those who are oppressed. We cannot end violence if the basic material needs of people remain unmet. We cannot end violence if this capitalistic economic order continues to be dependent on a culture of rugged individualism, competition, domination, and unending war. We cannot end violence without ending racism and misogyny and queer phobia and fat phobia. We cannot end violence when the state enacts it internationally and domestically. We cannot end violence without a society that secures health care and mental health care for everyone. We cannot end violence if our society continues to glamorize it as entertainment. We cannot end violence if our society does not offer everyone the opportunity to lead a life of meaning and purpose. We cannot end violence without community. Our beloved community is one of the antidotes to this malady of violence in our society. Dr. King had observed the ultimate weakness of violence is that it is a descending spiral begetting the very thing it seeks to destroy. Instead of diminishing evil, it multiplies it. Returning violence for violence multiplies violence, adding deeper darkness to a night already devoid of stars. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Beloved community envisions a world based on common belonging, purpose, and affection through the transformative power of love. It is a society with integrity, a society that has faced its troubled past and read all those books that are being banned and learned from them how to establish justice and equity where there was once injustice and inequity. Dr. King had noted such an aspiration requires both a quantitative change in our lives, in the material conditions of people's lives, and a qualitative change in our souls, a spiritual change in our self-understanding, in our disposition, in our priorities. Beloved community calls us to harmony among people and an enduring peace that is achieved not by superficial means, but by a common journey into the question of what it really means to be human and what it means to commit to the difficult work of establishing justice and equity, while at the same time nurturing and securing those bonds of affection and love between people. The Unitarian Universalist Community Church of Santa Monica is an incubator of beloved community in our world. It is a place of refuge from the many dangers of the world. It is a sanctuary of the Spirit where we uplift what is of great value in life and encourage its flourishing. It is a schoolhouse where we learn how to lead lives of integrity and meaning and encourage the same in our families, our relationships, our schools, and our communities. It is a place where we can be in the struggle for justice and know that we might not do it perfectly. It is a place where you can make mistakes, seek transformation, and find forgiveness and redemption. It is where we can put our calling and our inspiration and our compassion into action. We welcome new life into this community, and we promise to be the village that every child needs to grow up healthy and whole. We celebrate the great occasions of life. And when life's road comes to an end, it is here that we bid our farewells and that we tend to our precious memories. It is here that we learn to listen to the voices of our ancestors and dream dreams for the future. It is here in this place, in this sanctuary, in this beloved community, that we mount a fierce defense of life and proclaim love eternal. Now, beloved community emerges through the great labor of many, many souls. Today we are holding, even in the midst of our grief, immense gratitude for the many who come here and enrich our lives and make this congregation a beacon of hope and love and refuge in our world. Worship, of course, is at the heart of our spiritual life as a Unitarian Universalist congregation. I'd like to uplift the incredible team that's held us in times of distress and times of elation over this past church year. The Reverend Dr. Kakanza Nuri Robbins' contribution to our Worship Associates program and holding a nearly monthly preaching schedule has enriched all of our lives in amazing ways. Sonder Choi's outstanding musical ministry has helped move our spirits to new transcending heights. And his technological expertise was critical to our efforts to move worship online and then to live stream it. Our extraordinary section leaders, Javon Haskin, Chloe Vaught, Carl Oser, Dorita Seth, Keon Haydari, David Eric Peterson, and our beloved church pianist, Ryan Humphrey, have offered the beauty of their music and talents and voices and the powerful rhythms of their souls to us each week. Aubrey Sassoon, Mia Bringes, Liz Fuller, Pam, Dan Cagle, and Leonard have worked diligently behind the scenes to ensure that we have beautiful slides and aesthetics, video and sound, live streams, and virtual coffee hours. Our many worship associates have called us to worship and shared the creativity of their spirits and the wisdom of their lives with us. Our choir has returned, and together they have elevated our experiences of liberal faith and helped our spirits to soar. Our sextons, Tom Ahern and Kevin Roller, have made sure our sacred space is loved and cared for throughout the week. Our ushers and greeters and membership team have offered their hospitality to old-timers and newcomers alike. If you're one of the people who have given of yourself to our liberal religious worship, please rise now in body or in spirit and be recognized by your beloved community. Thank you. At the helm of our beloved community is our visionary and dedicated board of directors and the service of our professional staff leaders. Beth Brownlee, president of our congregation, Eileen McCormick, vice president of our congregation, and Jackie Weber, past president, have shared their ministry, our ministry, as a presidential team. And they have steered this community through challenge and transformation and 2 years of a global pandemic. They've been supported every step of the way by our extraordinary church officers, Treasurer Vilma Ortiz and Secretary Larry Weiner, in addition to our outstanding at-large board members, Abby Arnold, Mike Monty, Norm Ritchie, and Linda Van Lichten. Our professional office staff, supported by our exceptional congregational administrator, Narit Gordon, and supported by the many talents of Cindy Haynes and Sibylla Nash, have managed our day-to-day operations and provided for organizational continuity through this challenging time, and their service will always be remembered and appreciated. If you're a member of our amazing board of directors or serve in any role on our church staff, please rise now in body or spirit and be recognized by your beloved community. Thank you. Now, the mission of our liberal church is carried out and made real by the many groups, committees, commissions, task force, and teams of the congregation. These include the Adult Religious Education Committee, chaired by James Whitker and Sarah Robson, the Intersectional Anti-Racism and Anti-Oppression Commission, chaired by Neilani Santiago and Susan Hendricks Richmond, that's Doctor, and our Art Wall Committee, chaired by Beverly Allison, our Bylaws Refresh Task Force, chaired by Patricia Wright, the Hospitality and Coffee Team, chaired by Linda Van Lichten, the DeBenneville Pines Retreat Planning Committee, the Dining for Dollars Team, the Facilities and Maintenance Committee, chaired by John Zinner and Brad Hutchinson, the Faith in Action Team, chaired by Sarah Mae Harper and James Whitker, the Finance and Investment Committees, the Green Living Committee, chaired by Allison Kendall, the Hunger Task Force and Lunches for Bunches Group, the Music Committee, the News Magazine, chaired by Barbara Anders and Pat Teplitz, the OWL Facilitators, coordinated by Beth Rondero, the Nominating Committee, chaired by Barbara Kernichin, the Pastoral Associates, chaired by Denise Helton and Linda Van Lichten. Linda, I think you're doing too much. The Personnel Committee, the Peace and Justice Committee, the Stewardship Committee / person, Jackie Weber, and the Website and Communications Team, chaired by Lois Hutchinson. Now, if you have served in any of these groups, or any of those that I may have forgotten, please forgive me. Please rise in body or in spirit and be recognized by your beloved community. Beloved community is possible because you make it so. The rewards of service and sacrifice are rarely material, though I am told we do have some delicious cake following the service. But the rewards of giving oneself to community are enduring and of great value. Know that we appreciate you, we love you, and we thank you for the gifts of life that you have shared with us. To the always amazing Unitarian Universalist Community Church of Santa Monica. Amen and blessed be.
We come together for more than ourselves. We practice here at UUSM is to dedicate half of our Sunday offering to organizations doing work in the world that advances our Unitarian Universalist principles. The other 50% of the offering is used to support the life of our church. UUSM's generous congregation program supports our church community, and together we uplift and reach and impact. We uplift the reach and impact of vital organizations doing work we could not do on our own. This month, half of our Sunday offerings will go to the Sojourn, a program of the people concerned. In 1977, Sojourn has provided free, comprehensive, empowering services to survivors of domestic violence. The People's Concerned Domestic Violence Program offers a full range of services designed to provide safety, stability, and ongoing support and violence prevention programs for adult and child survivors. These services include, please join us in our supporting the mission of our church and the Sojourn. There are many ways to give. The ushers are sending our donation bags around the sanctuary or through our website, uusm.org. Click the Make a Donation button or scan the QR code on your screen with your smartphone. You can also text 844-982-0209 on your smartphone with the amount followed by the code GCC for generous congregation contributions, or PLG to make your member pledge, or IDC for another non-pledge donation. Or you can write an old-fashioned check to UUCCSM or Unitarian Universalist Community Church of Santa Monica. I think the bank prefers our long name. Your generous contributions to support the work and communities, we hold them all dear. Thank you.
And when you're weary of clouds, it helps you back down and welcomes you home to this hallowed ground. It's gilded in gold, gilded in rust, heaven below, heaven above, the heaven we know here in this world, here in our holy church of the earth. Church of the earth. And the windows are wide, so darkness and light, mystery and beauty greet you inside. And there's room enough to hold all of us together in friendship, together in love. Oh, it's gilded in gold, gilded in rust, heaven below, heaven above, heaven we know here in this world, here in our holy church of the earth. Church of the earth. Church of life, ancient and right, light that inside us shines, life that we share. This is our prayer, that we may always find the heaven we seek here at our feet, here in this sunrise, in this heartbeat. Oh, it's gilded in gold, gilded in rust, heaven below, heaven above, the heaven we know here in this world, here in our holy church of the earth, gilded in gold, gilded in rust, heaven below, heaven above, the heaven we know here in this world, here in our holy church of the earth, the heaven below, here in this world, here in our holy church of the earth, church of the earth. Please rise in body or in spirit for our closing hymn. If you're following along the hymnal, 1014, please note the word change.
May you go in peace. May you hold fast to that which is good, and return to no person evil for evil, but strengthen the faint of heart, support the weak, help the afflicted, honor all beings. Go and be blessed, and be a blessing. Amen.